Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Babies in Business Podcast. We're excited to share with you something today. If there's an episode that you ever wanted to see the show notes, it's definitely this one.
Yes. Please do not listen to this in your car, pulling this up on your screen, watching it while you're driving, at a light, stopped at a light, something like that. We are not condoning that. Do not do that. Sit on your couch, sit in your office, wherever you are. But do look at the show notes, pull up these pictures because it will be very helpful. We're going to do our best to describe it, but it's not the same as looking at them.
Yeah. The reason that this episode has us all pumped up today is because at the beginning of our relationship, when we first started in business together, this tool that we're going to bring you through, the Clifton StrengthsFinder, has been instrumental for us to carve out roles for each other in the business that work effectively and powerfully. It's also lent to more ease and harmony in our personal relationship, our marriage with each other, and it's extending its way into our team dynamics and retention. There's a lot to unpack here with the Clifton StrengthsFinder, and our goal in today's episode is by showing you what happened and occurred with us, telling you some of the stories and things that have benefited from this tool, that you might be inspired to try it or something similar that would help aid in your business. So I know when I first was described this by a coach, they pretty much just said, look, you got to do it. We're like, okay, fine. It's $50. Like, we're just going to do it, whatever. It's not that much money. But at the same time, I've talked to people about this and they've been like, well, I'm not sure I want to spend the money, but I couldn't like show them my thing. Look, we're going to show you the thing. You can make a decision for yourself, but you'll see how powerful this is. And I think that the stories that we're going to tell you can be like, look, me and my husband, me and my wife, we got to do this thing. Even if we're not doing business together, I think we could benefit here.
Absolutely. Gosh, this tool was so helpful for me personally, getting to know myself. Also, the unique thing about this test is that out of all those other tests that you can take, every other test tells you what you aren't good at, what your least likely thing to do is, or you hate to do this, or you hate to do that, or you're not good at this, or you're not good at that. This one, I love it. It's in its name. The StrengthsFinder. You get to focus on your strengths and really build on those strengths. So what we did, over the course of this episode, you're going to hear what we did, how it strengthened us in so many different ways. And if you're looking for more harmony, more understanding, more tools in your tool belt, in relationships, in your business, in retention, all those different things, this could be a missing piece for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you get annoyed that a team member never does the thing the way that you want them to do, or there's stuff that your spouse does that bugs you and you just don't understand it, like this tool will help bring more ease and harmony to all of that, more understanding, more empathy, more compassion. And then at the end of it, more efficiency all around. Like there's just so much to be gained. And I will say I've developed a different level of compassion and empathy towards you and towards our team members as a result of this test.
I can say the very same thing.
Patience across the board. Patience, man, it is a virtue and it will carry you a long way. This test will help you with that.
Absolutely. So
All right.
I'm excited to dive into this.
Okay. So a brief description of the Clifton StrengthsFinder, like you started on, is basically a visual map, which if you go to the show notes, babiesinbiz.com/episode number, you'll find this. You'll see my StrengthsFinder, you'll see a portion of it, and you'll see Rachel's a portion of it. So you can kind of look at them side by side. But what it does is it maps 34 different traits that every person has in order from your most strong trait to your least strong trait. And the idea is that if you focus and you live in your top 5, if you have a role where the things that you touch and the things that you do are embodied by your top 5 strengths, you will live a life that's more fulfilled and you'll be really productive.
And you're going to feel energetic. Like they talk about living in your flame, not in your wax. This is your flame, okay? hear this. If you live in your top 5, if you do this test, you are going to be living in your flame. The thing that you love the most. You're going to be so happy. The way that the test is administered is pretty ridiculously awesome as well. A question comes up, and you're going to grade it on a scale of not likely to very likely, and then kind of in the middle. But they don't really want you to choose in the middle because you're not going to get really great results from that. So they want you to make a decision very, very quickly. If you take too long, it's going to switch to another question. So they want you to just answer the questions as they come, instinctually, what your thoughts are. So that's the beauty of the test also, I think.
Yeah, they're going to pit statements against each other that you can't be looking at it and be like, well, what is the right answer that matches me? It's not like that. So you'll see that when you take the test. There is no gaming it, because they're making you choose between things that you normally wouldn't have to choose between.
Exactly. Yes. So it might feel like you're answering the same question a little bit differently from a different angle, and you are. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Going through it quickly, answering those questions, getting your results. You get this really great printout, and they're all very unique. So even though maybe your top 5 are similar to someone else's top 5, they could read differently. And all the way through those 34, they could read differently based on the different combinations that you have. So enough about the test itself. That's not really why we're here. It is, if you want to take the test, great. If you love what you're hearing from this episode, go take it. You can benefit from it. Absolutely. So I think it's time that we talk about ours.
Sure.
What it looks like, what we look like as far as this test goes, and how we compare to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, so those 34 different traits, they are sorted into 4 buckets, and they're color-coded. There is a green one, which is all your strategic things. There is a blue one, which is all of your relationship-related aspects. There's a orange one, which is called influencing, so it's your ability to persuade and influence. And then the last one is purple, which is executing. So, that's going to map really well to those task-oriented type people that are very organized. So when you look at this Clifton StrengthsFinder, you see on the very first page, there's almost like a DNA spiral. And if you look at my top 5 versus Rachel's top 5, you'll notice something very clear. Mine is full of green, and Rachel's is full of purple. And we both have a mix of the other two.
Right.
So what does that mean?
So just a reminder, the purple is execution, and then strategic thinking is green. So what that means is we are totally different from each other. We are not similar in our top strengths at all. I am the get it done person, and you are the let's dream about it, plan about it person. So coming together, it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful pairing for our business, for success, really. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to help create tasks, your vision, your dreaming into tasks that we can actually accomplish. There's actually episodes that we've talked about how we created a plan and then we made it into task format, and then we were able to get those things done. So that's me, but your strength is the overall thinking and the strategy, and
let's find the path forward. How are we going to get to where we want to go? What are our goals? Where are we dreaming? Where are we going? How, and then you're okay, so we want to go there. So let's figure out how to make that happen.
Right. So then I pick your brain about what your plan is. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's write this down. I'm going to understand this a little bit more. Now let's break it down into steps. So that is how this test translates for us in our business, being opposites. So that's really beautiful.
So check this out. In every business, there is a visionary, and it's usually that person that has a lot of these green aspects.
Yes.
All right, they're the dreamer type, right? They got a million ideas, and they need to be tamed and reined in by the person who is the integrator.
Yes.
Okay. These are terms that are borrowed from a system called EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. We'll throw it down here in the show notes. Also, a book called Traction, which you can learn more about that. The integrator is the get it done person. The visionary is the dreamer. Every great business has both. Okay.
At the top.
At the very top. I'll give you an example of what doesn't work really quickly. My last relationship, my partner and I bet if she had taken the test, she would have scored very similar to me, a lot of green. So we always found each other, I wouldn't say fighting over the same role, but there wasn't enough room for both of us to be the visionary. And also, how many projects do you think we started and never finished? A lot of things we started but never finished because there was 2 visionary type people and we did not have that integrator personality, which is you.
Yes, and that stuff exhausts you. Like, it's not just, "I don't like it, I could do it." It's, "I really hate that." It zaps me of my energy, and I'm speaking for you, I defend your energy. That's my role in our business. It's not like I'm compensating for you by any means, but I do defend your energy by saying, no, no, transfer that to me. Forward that email to me. Give me that task. Give that to the team. Find someone to outsource it to. Do not do that task." So,
On the flip side, I've got some high influencing, that orange color in one of my top 5. So like when Rachel, I can see, is anguishing or struggling around like what to say in response to a client email or some other message that we need to get back to, personal, business, or otherwise,
yes.
I'm like, just give me that. Like, I will write the thing that needs to be said, and I know the words to say, and I can bang that out in 60 seconds, whereas you could agonize over it for half an hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think what came out of this is, and I know we can talk about, where we were when we took this test.
Right.
I think that you and I, at this point, 4 years after taking this test, we now understand, okay, this is a task that is made for the other person. I should give it to them.
And there's no shame about that.
And you don't feel bad about it.
At the beginning, when we took this test, it was very much, "Oh, I really don't want to give this task to someone else."
Because I hate it so much.
You hate it, and your assumption was that they would hate it too.
Everybody
So,
else must hate it.
yeah, but when you give me a task that is like really tasky, like I get to check it off, I get to actually send an email and check it off, I'm done, I am in heaven. So we've learned that about each other. One more thing that I want to mention about our tests. So there are the top 5, and that is where your strengths are. So if you're living there, you're good. You're in heaven.
Yeah, you're
But
getting energy from every task that you do.
yes, but I just want to point out that my top is in the execution bracket. It's purple. And yours is strategic. So I think the very top one is also important to look at because kind of everything else kind of hinges off of that one that I really want to get things done. I am task oriented, list oriented kind of thing. You want to dream and think and we could not be more opposite. So I do want to stress that you're going to see our top 5, our top 10, you're going to see this list, but it's really cool to look at that top 1 as well. And then going into, what did it do for me? How did I feel about taking this test? Well, when I got my results back, I was like, whoa, I love building relationships. I love tasks. And I feel like it was the first time I actually got to know myself through my strengths, the eyes of my strengths. I grew up always knowing my weaknesses, feeling like I needed to be better. I mean, gosh, there were so many things, but it did so much good for me knowing what I was good at. And then I just felt like I just poured myself into that. And it gave me a clear path on what to do in our business and how I could help.
It's true. Yeah, well, when we took this test, we were actually in Scottsdale, Arizona when we did it, and Rachel was contemplating shutting her business down and then proposing to me that she could join Digital Harvest. So the test couldn't have come at a more perfect time for us to see really how valuable Rachel would be to the team.
Absolutely. And I just remember proposing to you that I join your business. And when I did so, you had said, well, I've wanted your strengths and your talents in my business for a long time, but I didn't want to take away your dream. And at the time I was sewing. I was a seamstress and doing alterations, but 2020 kind of kicked my butt. I closed that business down. I'd been mourning the loss of my business for months and I hadn't really told you anything. And you'd been with me from the start of that business. So you felt like maybe me joining your business would be me feeling like I was feeling. But I just got my hobby back. So that was the beautiful thing about that. We did touch a little bit about how it's helped us in our relationship, just maybe that it has, but maybe let's go a little bit deeper into that. What would you say it's helped you with mostly in our relationship?
I think back to the time that we were planning to go on a trip and you had some meeting or something away out of the house, and it was going to be up to me to pack the car that morning and get everything together. And I just remember that a lot because in my mind, I grew up playing with Legos and I felt like very good spatially. But when it came to managing that process of packing the car correctly, and doing it under time pressure. I was very frazzled by the time that you got home. We weren't ready to go, and I needed your help. Since then, we have reversed that.
Yes.
And even though it may be more physical effort on Rachel for us to get ready to go, what I'm great at is making sure that we have every single thing that we could possibly need, because
Right.
I know how to plan for and account for and
Well, you create the list.
I create the list. I help us get that organized to figure out all the things that need to happen. And then Rachel will get it into the vehicle so that it all fits.
Yes.
And so that's a great metaphor for the rest of our relationship, because you'll find us in the kitchen moving seamlessly without talking, because we know like somebody's better at this or faster at this than
Right.
the other person.
But also we feel comfortable enough to say, hey, how about we switch? Like mid whatever we're doing, if we see that someone is struggling and we know that that's not their strength, neither of us take offense when we do that. I also think of another really funny story to tell.
Oh yeah, what's that?
So we were taking pictures around
I
town
thought
in
you'd bring
Albuquerque.
this up.
And we were in my Jeep, and we call it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for a reason. Because when you go over a bump,
You feel everything.
you feel everything. And you're just jostling about, and it's pretty jarring. So this one day, we were out. It was our first time doing this together. We were in the Jeep, and I don't know if I was pregnant at the time.
You were driving, I was passenger. So
Yes.
I was telling us where to go and you were going,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'd have to get out and I'd have to get out and take the picture.
Yes. And so we thought that that was the best way. So I was getting cranky because he was really not good at giving me directions at where I need to turn and prepping me ahead of time and all this stuff. And so it was more than 3/4 of the way through our day. I'm pretty sure it was.
We were getting grumpy
at the
with each
very
other
last.
too.
Oh, we were grumpy. I was so grumpy with him. And I said, I remember pulling over. I even remember where it was in the city. And I was like, Avram, we're switching places. You're like, what? We're switching places? Yes, you're driving. And I was a little bit grumpy and terse with you, but we switched. And he said, so I'm going to drive and I'm going to take the pictures? And I said, yes, you are. I'm going to give you directions. You were completely bought in by the time we were done with like 2 stops, I think.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great story that was around what I was going to say, which is, how it's changed for me in our relationship. I think there are things that I would have held on to with pride and been like, no, I can do it.
Right.
And then for that plus other reasons, not give it over. Versus now, I'm like, okay, she's not going to think anything less of me or anything different of me if I just give it to her.
Yeah. I might even thank you for it.
Right. So I think that's a big this change for me, because I want to be independent. You grow up, everything, especially being an only child, I was raised to be independent, to not need anybody, to not be a burden to somebody.
Sure.
So this has changed how I am willing to ask for and accept help from my spouse.
Absolutely. And for me, there were times when, oh my gosh, I would give you something, I'd email you something, I'd tell you something, whatever it was, and oh gosh, you hadn't done it. And like we've already talked about, I love lists, I love getting things done, I love that kind of stuff. But I was starting to get frustrated. In the brief time that we'd been together since 2018, and this happened in 2020, at the end of 2020, okay? So I had found some frustration around the fact that I'd get something to you, I'd tell you needed to do something, and it was your responsibility and you didn't do it. So I get really frustrated. So what this test did for me was, when we took it, I just had this huge aha moment. I was like, oh, all those tasks, I just need to own those tasks. Yay, I get more tasks that I can actually check off and do. I was so excited, and it relieved me of feeling frustrated with you, because you shouldn't have been in that role in the first place. So that's one of the situations that I had very vividly remembered that really changed for us. Also, this test has helped us not only let go of our pride and let the other person do something. It's actually kind of not even about that anymore. It's more like just letting each other live in our strengths. And it feels pretty awesome.
Yeah. So check out the show notes, because there is more than what we just talked about. You'll see our strengths finders essentially side by side. You can see what that kind of looks like. The document that we got is 25 pages. So we're giving you the snapshot of it so that you can see this top level stuff, but really it breaks it down into so much detail. And speaking of detail, if you like this episode so far, we got like 4 other episodes that you would most likely enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm going to rattle them off here. We're going to put them in the show notes as well. Episode 4 is leading with your strengths and empowering your team members. Episode number 8 is choosing the right partner. Sounds a lot like what we're talking about today.
Yep.
Episode 34 is how to get my spouse to work with me. Episode 37 is the pros and cons of owning a business with your spouse. So you can see how this episode is really a key part of all those previous topics, and we're just building here into how you operate with your spouse, but also how you operate with the rest of your teammates. This really is pervasive in every part of your life, should you choose to embrace it.
Absolutely. And I just want to add one little caveat here is if you're if you're struggling with retention in any way, this could help your teammates or you as a business owner if your team members are doing this, because you can understand what their strengths are. If the tasks or things that they're being tasked with at work aren't in line with their strengths, that's why they're getting just so frustrated, or maybe they miss work a lot, or maybe they're honestly, the percentage of people that are looking for work while they are employed is staggering. I think it's like 80% of people are looking.
Yeah, our friend Jill Avey mentioned that. She's an HR specialist, Southwestern HR and Consulting. And she mentioned, there's a huge number of people that are currently working for you that are looking.
Yeah, so if you want to reduce the turnover rate, you want to keep people and have them be happy in what they're doing and excited to come to work, have them work in their flame. You could also create better job postings around this, because you could understand, what is this person that I'm looking for? So many things can come out of this. So that's the one thing I wanted to say.
Well, I'll give you an example of somebody, a traditional role and how it's structured, and how what you might find from the StrengthsFinder would have you restructure that role,
Sure.
particularly for your business. So right now I am the SEO strategist for our team, but I am not the SEO implementer.
Correct.
Why?
Because implementing tires you out.
Right. So imagine if you hired somebody like me to do the SEO because you interviewed them and you're like, wow, clearly this person's very bright. They know exactly what to do. They're incredibly intelligent about how they're going to put together a campaign.
Sure.
This is the person we need to hire. But you bring them in and then they just cannot complete and keep up with the workflow.
Yeah.
How did I miss this, right? So traditionally, somebody might hire somebody for that role and expect them to do all the things. But what you realize in this example is, in this case, SEO, search engine optimization, is split into 2 things. There's the strategy of it,
Right.
which is a different brain
Sure.
than the implementation of it.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
That's what we mean by, like, you could have team members that are, some parts of their job they really hate because they're just set up in a different way.
Right.
And you're making them do things that don't fit with, they may logically fit with the role,
Right.
and you think that they should do them, but they're not a good fit.
Yeah.
And that's why you might be having some turnover, why people aren't loving what they're doing,
Well,
stuff like this.
And that's why in this example of the search engine optimization, that's why our relationship works so well, because you can think of the plan and then I can help to implement it, because that's the stuff that I love. So when you're thinking about hiring people, retention, and all of the different things that go along with business, just remember that you are working with human beings. They are not objects, and there are things that they are really, really good at. And you could really use those to the fullest of your ability for your business to grow and for them to grow and love what they do. If you're willing to restructure maybe a little bit, and instead of having one role or one person doing that one thing, maybe split it into 2. You find that those are 2 different tasks. Those 2 different tasks need to be done by 2 different people.
That's right. So we got a question for you, Mr. Mrs. Listener. We're going to put up on our social media channels. You can comment on the episode announcement for this episode, or you can look for it later this week. We're going to pose this question to you. All right, we want your engagement online. We'd love to hear from you. In your relationship, who is the visionary and who is the action taker? You can tag the other person too. That'd be pretty funny, right? So who's the visionary? Who's the action taker? We'd love to know. And also just see who's out there listening right now and learn more about you too. Maybe we didn't realize who was who. Go ahead and post that up on social media, Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Babies and Biz Pod. Also on YouTube, TikTok, and those other places. babiesandbiz.com/. the number of the episode. That's where you can find all the show notes, all the mentions of other previous podcasts, all the downloads and things that we talked about today, the visual components, all that stuff is on there. So make sure you go check it out. All right. You can always catch us at the website. hello@babiesandbiz.com is our email. We are still looking for those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please take a moment and star that while you can. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.